Dan, I think, can tell us. I think, see, Mr. Hazzard died in '48, and did the snows come right after that? Yeah. They acquired the property right after the Hazards. Yeah. And then from there, the Dantons. Yeah.
Did the Hazards have this as a full-time residence?
Oh, no. If someone asked, was this their full-time residence? No, this was their summer residence. As I mentioned, Mr. Hazzard arrived in Gardner, Maine in the early 1900s. I think it was right around 1902 that he came up from Brockton, Mass. To begin to work in the shoe industry in central Maine. And he bought a house at that time, and then in the 1920s he had a very elaborate English-style house built in Gardner that's still standing today, although it's largely in the midst of much overgrowth and bushes and forest and so on. You can hardly see it. But it was at the same time that he built his big English-style house for his year-round residence in Gardner. And by the way, it literally overlooked his shoe factory. I mean, you would have thought that he might have wanted to have, there was plenty of land around Gardner. He might have wanted to have a sort of like a country estate, which he certainly could have afforded, but it was that sort of New England mill owner, factory owner tradition of having your house overlooking your factory, sort of to watch everything and keep an eye on everything. I just recently saw the Masterpiece Theatre rendition of North and South, which is a Victorian novel about England in the industrial period. And the mill owner there literally has his mansion right next to his mill. So this was Mr. Hazzard. But then this is where they retreated to for the summer. This was their summer house, beginning in 1927. And it's this house has very much the spirit of the Roaring '20s. And when you look at those films and see how the people are attired and what they're doing, their pastimes, the swimming, the baseball, the wrestling, the dogs, the riding horses on the beach. I mean, that's just, it's how the simple folk lived in the 1920s.
What's the house used for now?
I think we need to turn to one of the owners, members of the family, to explain that.
Yeah, my brother bought the house this past spring, winter and spring, and right now he's not living in here. He's fixing it up. Had to replace the lights and a lot of the utilities. The heating system was taken. Doors have been refabricated. They're new, replaced. They were missing. But we did find some interesting things, like there is a central vacuum system in here from 1925 or something. And all the closets have door switches, so when you open the closet door, the door lights go on in all the closets too, which is something pretty unique for the time. So, and he'll be renting it, and it's available right now.
It's a little chilly for now.
It is a little chilly.
Tell them a story about the safe.
Well, I don't. There's a safe upstairs, which was a jewelry safe for when they would come home from entertaining, and then there's the walk-in safe in the basement that was for papers, and I think they used the bank. They used the house and the safe here more than they would use the local banks at the time. And probably for the Hazards, the banks would come to them for money.
I have a question. A lot of the paintings say "Hey Beck" on them. Would that be Clearbeck?
Those are replacement. Those are recent. So when we got the house, it was pretty much a wreck.
So you
it's
don't
had
know
to
if
be
they're
repainted.
Clearbeck painting?
I really don't know. The lights all have to be replaced with just wires hanging out of the walls. There was huge. If you look at the pictures in the magazine, you'll see there's big wrought iron in the doorways. That was taken when we got the house. unfortunately, a lot of things were missing.
So
So
are you trying to restore it back to original now?
as much as we can, yeah.
Was the house originally pink? Because every time I've been by it, I call it the pink palace. But was it originally pink?
It was either tan or pink over the years. I think most of the recent history was all pink. So. But the tiles that are here and in the dining area and the hallways, the stairway are all original tiles, as are the bathroom tiles. Everything right from the 20s. So pretty high quality, handmade. They brought in European craftspeople to do it. Really nice stuff. And including the ship there, that was here, then was untouched. Thanks. Being glad you could all make it. I'm also on the board of the library in Old Orchard. So thank you for that. Thank you.
Any more questions for Neil? My name's Dan Blaney again. I don't want to hog the show, but I'll tell you a little bit about the house that I've learned. I did a little research and I found on July 7th, 1926 that Mr. Hazzard Sr. bought this property, this land from the Libby family here in Old Orchard Beach. And it stated, you asked the question, after the Hazards, it did go to Fred Snow. He owned Snow's Cannery over here, was later sold to Borden's Milk Company. And then in 1969, this property was sold to Judge Nicholas Danton and his cousin for $250,000. And it stayed in the family up until Billy Danton acquired it after his parents died. And then it went up for public auction on May 3rd, 2012, and that's when King Weinstein bought the property. But the property goes from right next door where Dr. Weeks' property is, it goes all the way over to Pasha Avenue. And they also own almost the equivalent piece of property across the street. And when you leave here today, you see that little red house over there. It's a small, that's where the workers stayed when they built this house over here. And the pool that you saw was located between here and Danton Towers. And an interesting thing to note that Mr. Shettleworth brought up is that he had a house, a prefab house moved here. In 1933 and 34, the Chicago World's Fair was called the Century of Progress. They had 12 model homes with all the most updated appliances that you could imagine. And Mr. Hazzard bought one of those houses and had it moved over here where Pine Point Vista is. It was torn down when they built the Pine Point Vistas in, I think it was '89. And that was a wedding present for his son. And another thing, and I'll close with this thing, is that back in the 70s, I thought I knew a lot about Maine history. And I really don't know a lot about it, but I was elected to go on to the So You Think You Know Maine show. And my biggest fear was not getting before the camera, not getting before, I forget the guy's name, but was getting against Earle Shettleworth. I said to my wife, if he's there when I get there, I'm not going on the program. But
That's trouble.
unfortunately and fortunately, there was a history professor from Bowdoin College on there and a high school history professor on there. But I came in a very close second, and what happened is I misheard the question, and I would have and should have won it, but I didn't. We're going to be showing you the next reel in about 10 minutes. This one is even better than the first one.